Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine, a game on a more divergent path from the plethora of real-time strategies from the Warhammer universe. Was this lesser-run path of a third-person hack-and-slash shooter a good way to go? Or should they have stuck to what they know? Hello there, my name is Red, and I'm here to help you find out, should you play it? Let's find out right now. Shout out and thanks to everyone that likes, comments, and subscribes. As always, I will be keeping this video as spoiler-free as possible, so if you like it, you can experience it for yourself. Now let's go.
In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.
Excuse me. Warhammer is a constantly expanding, retracting and recanonizing universe. Books, games and stories are plentiful with more consistently on the way. A tabletop experience beloved by many. Thousands upon thousands of figurines have been painted and countless hours spent in the world of Warhammer. It's beloved by so many, so let's dive into the gory foray that is Space Marine and see if it's worthy. Space Marine was developed by Relic Entertainment and published by THQ. Relic being a studio owned by THQ and a developer well versed in the Warhammer franchise. The Anniversary Edition, the version I'm playing, is an all DLC inclusive version of the game released by Sega. Sega acquired THQ in 2013 when THQ went bankrupt and was sold off. Released on the 6th of September 2011, with the Anniversary Edition releasing on the 23rd of September 2021. The game opens up with a really cool main menu. It's not much, a few animations looping together, but I really enjoy a unique and creative main menu. It sets the tone of the game really well, and it's sadly something we see less and less of these days. The game begins much like a lot of Warhammer games, with a high-end cutscene. I will leave the cutscene in here for your enjoyment in its entirety, as I feel it's worth watching, but feel free to skip to this timestamp.
Captain Titus, the Orks have massacred the Forge World's forces, and they have taken the planetary defense weapons.
Clever of the damned Orks. Keeps us off their backs while they loot the Titan war machine.
Brace for evasive maneuvers.
Pilot, report!
Starboard engine is dead, Sergeant. We are losing altitude.
Get the ship to safety. We'll find another way down.
Aye, Captain. Thunderhawk Lancer 12 returning to launch bay.
This is your plan.
We need to get to the surface to take out the gun battery. Or do you want to go home already, Sergeant?
Not before having a word or two with the Orks.
Is that wise, Captain? The Codex Astartes does not support this action.
Try to keep up.
An elegant, smooth transition takes you from in-engine cutscene straight into combat, and the carnage begins. You step into the massive pauldrons of Captain Demetrain Titus, a space marine or Adeptus Astartes. Warhammer loves its Latin. With a bolt pistol in hand and a combat knife at your side, you hack, slash and shoot your way through this Ork-controlled ship. Space Marine takes place on the Forge world Goriah, a planet completely devoted to the mass creation of weapons for the Imperium of Man and its wars, which by the standards of the 41st millennium is perfectly fine and normal, thank you. You are an Ultramarine, a chapter of Space Marines. Even if you're not familiar with Warhammer, you may have seen these fellas around. They are the poster childs for the 40K universe. 40K being the far-flung 41st millennium with an alternative history universe filled with unknowable species, worlds spanning empires, monsters, and a lot of angry people. Different from the Warhammer fantasy universe, a universe in a realm of gritty, dark fantasy with magic, monsters, and also a lot of angry people. The Ultramarines are considered amongst the most honourable and strongest chapters in the Imperium of Man. These 7 to 8 feet tall leviathans of mankind are genetically engineered to perfection, modified and trained for one thing only: war. Effortlessly wage your war to take down the Ork ship and crash land on the planet, where you can continue your linear level based carnage. Oof, I do not envy the cleanup crew here. Anyway, in Warhammer, Orks, spelt with a K, are green-skinned, Cockney-accented, comical relief.
You try to steal my titans? Steal my loot? I'll rip your guts right out your throat!
Orks' ramshackle technology adorably runs on what is basically hopes and dreams, explained in-universe as a psychic field they produce, ensuring all their tech works despite all logic and reason. Their interests lie only in a good fight, and they multiply quickly. They're mushroom-like in origin, growing quickly out of the ground, born ready to fight, and once a world is infected with the Ork menace, Exterminatus, destroying the entire world from orbit, is usually called for. But the Forge world of Goriah is considered too tactically important for such an action, as seen in the opening cutscene. So we the Ultramarines battle on. You are given several weapons as you go. The game is heavy on the hack and slash aspect, so you quickly upgrade your combat knife for a chainsword. You can do a button mashing combo, stun enemies with an alternate melee attack, and finish them off with an execution move. This execution is also how you regain lost health. Be warned, unlike a lot of other games, you aren't immune from damage when locked into an execution animation, so be mindful of that. You are equipped with a personal shield that drains when attacked and refreshes after a short amount of time. Think Master Chief's shield in Halo. The same here, really. You and your brothers, not real brothers, but brothers in arms and of the same chapter, it's a Warhammer staple, have been sent to bolster the forces on this planet. You'll come across friendlies in fights. Whether they die or not seems to be up to what is needed for story reasons, and no actions on your part will really affect the outcome. The squishy humans are there to die so that you can see how powerful you are. Supplies are running low for the Imperial Guard, and they are being overrun. You stomp your way through ruins with your massive bulk and continue to take the fight to the Orks. You quickly discover all senior officers are gone, leaving only junior level soldiers to fight and lead. Your presence is reassuring. You are the Ultramarines of legend. The NPCs will stand at attention and be in awe as you walk by, which is a good bit of environmental storytelling. It makes you feel special, because in the Warhammer universe, you, a Space Marine, are a sight to behold for beleaguered eyes, the stuff of legends. The Ultramarines are presented here with very proper British accents, the poster childs of enunciation as well, it seems.
You have survived this long on your own, Lieutenant. You have done well. But you are no longer alone. We will retake the gun. You will get your reinforcements.
They're stiff, proper, righteous sounding, and to be quite frank, rather boring. Let's compare Space Marine to just one similar feeling franchise, Gears of War. The same rundown type of world, brutal combat, downtrodden NPCs, and a fight for survival. I can remember Marcus Phoenix, Dom. I can remember their voices, their personalities, some one-liners. These Ultramarines are sadly just so dry and dull. As far as I know, it fits the universe. The Marines resisting the urge to call out loudly while they reload. They are always calm and collected. They know what they need to do and they get it done. Occasionally there are interesting hints of personality, Titus suggesting that maybe the rulebook can be up for a bit of interpretation.
The Codex Astartes warns against using jump packs to leap blindly into enemy fire, and for good reason.
Your days as a novice are behind you. Why do you still interpret the Codex so narrowly?
I look to its rules for guidance.
We all do. But there are also benefits to thinking for yourself, Berger.
You get the sense he's a fair and just character, but don't expect to remember some great dialogue, juicy one-liners, or off-color jokes. There isn't much to be found here, sadly. Your first objective is to take down a massive planetary defense weapon. Warhammer never goes small. Suspiciously, the Orks have taken control of it. Suspicious because the charming Orks of Warhammer aren't known for their tactics at all, just single-minded bloody war. Continue to follow the very linear path from objective to objective. The level progress is quite constricted. By now, you'll have a few weapons at your disposal and an ability, Fury. You have a bolt pistol, wielded one-handed, sword in the other, creating a stoic pose. Aesthetics over function, which is a Warhammer tradition. This is your first weapon and has infinite ammo, so shoot away to your heart's content. The bolter rifle, hip-fired with two hands unless you are equipped with a jump pack. Then this too is wielded with one hand. A Stalker bolter, basically a sniper rifle, and the Vengeance launcher, a brand new and unique weapon at the time to this game. The launcher shoots sticky explosives which detonate when pressing the reload/vent button. These weapons listed are the ones found within around the first hour of gameplay. Your pistol and melee slot are permanent, but you do find upgraded weapons to go in those slots as you go. The other slots are changeable, as you'll find more weapons throughout gameplay, but I'll leave those for you to discover. You have 3 interchangeable slots on top of the pistol, which gives you 4 weapons total at once, on top of the melee weapon. Allowing only 4 weapons at once often feels like a console restriction, to cater to controllers. Another console hangover that does actually frustrate me is aim assist. It is very clearly there, and you are unable to turn it off in the settings for mouse and keyboard. This is very much a personal gripe of mine when games do this, and I really dislike it. This should simply be an option in the menu for those that want it, not permanently on. But speaking of settings, there are a few to go over. Firstly, there are subtitles to enable. Great, right? But not everyone's actually subtitled, just the main characters. You cannot change keybinds or video settings in-game. You are forced to return to the main menu, and changing controls, in my opinion, is a must, because the controls are bound rather strangely. At least for someone like me who can't separate right mouse button click with aim down sights, which by default is your sword attack. If you don't rebind your controls straight away, it also makes the intro level quite jarring. You are given multiple bindings in the tutorial, and I never remember what the hell mouse button 5 is, so I would suggest changing those to something you're more familiar with. You leave the light brown ruins of this world and enter the dark grey interior. The game suffers a little bit from the Gears of War syndrome of dull, lifeless colours. Not quite as bad as Gears of War, but still. A saturation change would do this game a service, even something mild like this. Just a few assets changed, making the Orks a bit greener, the Marines a bit bluer, brightening up the red splashes of blood, but again that's just sort of in my opinion. Your views may differ. But of course, no, that's not how they look, or no, you can't do that, may have also been the response to developers' attempts to change it up a bit. Again, feeling like a Gears of War clone, you cannot jump. Jumping is for cowards and is heresy. You must only forward roll. For only with forward rolling will you find peace in war. And occasionally dodge out of the way of a grenade. It's a fun little mechanic to do, rolling around out of danger, but not having a jump definitely restricts parts of the level design. Unless of course you just decide to throw the rulebook out the window and let the player levitate over this ledge to get to this ammo crate. This is a bad, or at the very least rushed, design choice. It communicates poorly to the player the rules of the game. To be fair, I did not personally find any others like this, but that's kind of not the point. Now, rather incongruously, I will talk about the times you can actually jump. Say hello to the jump pack, something you unfortunately only get to use a couple of times. Wielding this bulky piece of equipment, you can boost up into the air, then execute a powerful ground pound attack. You are limited to only using melee, bolt pistol, and the bolter rifle when wielding this piece of kit. It's very fun, with a satisfying bone-crunching powerful slam and a good range on the area of effect. It can look a bit comical at times, but it is a good laugh and breaks up the combat. You enter, via a circuitous route, the bowels of the planetary defense weapon, now being used by the Orks. Slay the green skin scum as you get a close-up example of scale in the Warhammer world. These gigantic shells stand twice your height lying down. You'll put someone's eye out with those. Warhammer really knows how to make a 7-foot-tall super-enhanced human feel small. You need to clear out the Orks. Smartly, your team decides to plant a plasma charge on the shell destined to be fired. After loading the shell with the charge, you follow it to ensure it reaches its destination. Escaping excitingly, you flee with explosions behind you. You are now done with what is basically a side quest. Now on to the main mission. You are a powerful war machine as a space marine. Danger doesn't often come from single enemies, it comes from numbers, and well, yes, the occasional stronger individual. The game's trick is often to throw waves of little orcs at you, whilst bigger orcs shoot at you from afar. Dealing with the ranged attacks is a priority, I find, as you can easily get overwhelmed with damage if not done. The litlins are carved away easily like so much chaff with your blade, but whilst you're executing them, trying to get your health back, the waves of bullets can take you down, so be mindful of your surroundings. Also, there are exploding barrels and such, and they do hurt quite badly too. Though this might shock you, they're conveniently red. So keep an eye out. Sadly, despite a normal release and then an anniversary update release, the game is a bit glitchy. Within the first hour I found glitching textures, areas with catching geometry, and this little fella. As is often in games, enemies' lives are linked to progression, and this is no different here. The door is locked. My friendly brothers are unhelpfully stacking up on it and doing little else. This guy is stuck and needs to be exterminated in order to progress. Luckily, he got stuck in a shootable area, otherwise it would have required a reload from checkpoint. Rest in pieces, little fella. Rest in pieces. For how linear and tight the environments are, it's a little disappointing to encounter several glitches so quickly. I also noticed enemies clearly spawning in, and some even glitching forward. And as I mentioned, unhelpful friendly AI, these two guys here, Wingus and Dingus, absolutely f***ing suck. I've never come across more useless companion AI from a higher budgeted game made in 2011 or onwards. Watch this guy casually stroll as bullets ping around him and slam into me. Watch this guy shoot near me, then shoot at a wall for no reason. Watch this guy casually strolls and an enemy attacks him. Watch them slowly walk around, looking like lost, helpless children. You know who has to do all the work on this team? Muggins here, that's who, because these supposed Ultramarines are just crap. I expect a better kill count from Mario's scrub enemies than these jerks. Ugh, sorry. They're just really rubbish. It is sometimes a tactic games employ, making you feel like you have help, but really, you're doing most of the work. It makes you feel not alone whilst also conveying a sense of battling against the odds. It sometimes works if done right, but here, it's just super noticeable. I'm pretty sure it's not a gameplay choice here. It's just really crap AI logic and pathing. They also have a tendency to get lost, stuck behind walls, and because they get lost so much, they are constantly teleporting around when you're not looking. They can produce some real creeper moments. But at least, hey, you can find collectibles. That's good, right? These collectibles contain audio files. These audio files often contain insight into the limited life expectancy of the non-enhanced humans on this planet and in the 41st millennium.
Not enough cover! Get down! Get down! Ah! Hold Hold on, Captain. Get me a medipack.
As always, hiding collectibles away in levels is a good tactic to encourage exploration. These good little Servitor Skull boys also have the added bonus of containing lore. Although I will say, you have to hold interact on the collectibles for the files to play, and I kept forgetting to. I made it over an hour with several collectibles and didn't hear a single audio log. My skills are unmatched. You can of course listen to them again in your in-game menu. A fun little aside, you can use mounted guns when the weak using them inevitably die. As an added badass bonus, you can rip it off to become a walking turret. As is gaming tradition, it overheats, and whilst mounted it has infinite ammo, but limited once unmounted. There's another plasma-based one later on with infinite ammo even ripped off, but you lose it promptly. I also love that the Orks have taken the time to adorably decorate between their looting and fighting times. Never underestimate the importance of decorating and brand recognition. I do also love just how comical and over the top Orks' deaths can be. Headshots make their heads pop like overfilled balloons filled with viscera. It can be quite satisfying. Handily for use in combat, if you press reload, then roll, by the time you are standing back up, you've reloaded. It definitely helps keep the action more fluid. You're not forced to abandon your reload to roll out of danger. You can do both. In-game, you also quickly get access to some serviceable grenades. They're great for interrupting large clumps of greenskins the game likes to throw at you. And they ragdoll nicely too. Now, I spoke previously of the Fury mode. This is perhaps one of the bigger parts of the close quarters combat. Once unlocked, you build up Fury by damaging enemies. When your meter is full, you can activate it to unleash your fury and woe betide the Orks that stand in your way. All close combat attacks are enhanced for the duration and you regain health. Good for an emergency. Use it wisely. It only ends when fully drained. No going off half furious and saving your rage for later. To help you with a melee, the aforementioned lacking in-game menu does at least provide you with the combat controls. These are the combos you are capable of performing with each unlockable close combat weapon. Sadly, the combos are rather basic. It's really just a list of click this button once more. The only variant existing is when to switch in the stun attack. It's a bit disappointing when in a hack and slash shooter, the hack and slash lacks depth. A nice little bit of bonus gameplay is a button mash contest when interlocked in melee combat with large enemies. Overcome them by mashing left click and finish their execution. Whilst I have complained about the colour palette, what I can't complain about is the architecture. Again, Warhammer is big on aesthetics. Intricate designs, massive structures in gothic tones. I really do love it. It makes even you, a giant space marine, feel very small. These humongous buildings and vaulted, venerated halls are gorgeous. I do especially love the hallway. The shadow of slow-moving ventilation blades passing over, the intricate seal, the light and dark shadows, all mixed with the ominous red glow of the trained turrets watching you as you pass. The gorgeous architecture belying the brutality of the 41st millennium. Then, at the end of the hallway, a cheery message.
Be not concerned with events beyond these walls. Work, focus, meet your quota. Increased productivity gains high favor from the machine gods.
That's right, work, meet your quota, don't worry about the outside world, and be thankful for what you've got. Now back to work. A neat trick that was becoming popular in the late 2000s was the hiding of loading screens. This is performed in Space Marine with cutscenes and transition areas, tight long tunnels, slow walking radio talks, again the Gears of War DNA, and lifts, or elevators to some of you. Lots and lots and lots of elevators. You will continue to get upgrades as you go along. New weapons and your Fury gets unlockables as well. The first within the initial hour of gameplay. This upgrade grants you the ability to slow down time whilst Fury mode is activated and you are pressing the aiming button. It can help in a pinch and allows you to knock down enemies in quick succession. Once the planetary defense weapon is destroyed, you move on to your primary objective. Find and recover the Titan Invictus. Titans are monolithic war machines, and the primary reason you're here. On the way, you get a distress call. An Inquisitor named Drogon is in need of help. Fortuitously, he is trapped in the Manufactorium, the same place as the Titan. Handy that. He speaks of an experimental device, something that must be kept out of enemy hands or, quote, he'll be unstoppable. Intriguing. So onward your warpath proceeds. After the dispatching of more Orks and stopping their schemes, you discover the Titans standing dormant, unable to be crewed and help in the planetary defense. A slight tangent. Just before the experimental weapon I'm in danger I need help stuff, you get on this train as it needs to be stopped. You're told you have 6 minutes before impact. Because I'm me, I did in fact stand there for 6 minutes just to find out what would happen. Nothing, unfortunately. It's one of those fake ticking clocks. By now, you've collected an upgrade or two, and whilst there may not be any cosmetics for your Ultramarine, your Fury and Fury upgrades are purity seals which get displayed on your armor as you go. They're all nice and physicsy. It's not much, but it's something. Purity seals are a mark of a brother's faith or morality, given to them before battle, along with a whole lot of other lore stuff I don't have time to explain here. I've struggled with quite a lot of this when trying to explain Warhammer simply, and also considering I'm only loosely familiar. Thank you very much, Wiki Fandoms. But in-game, the seals help visually remind the player that personal progress has been made. It makes you feel like you've done something with your time. Chaos does play a key role in the story as well. To quote the Warhammer 40K fandom wiki, again thank you,
Chaos, also known to its servants as the Primordial Truth or the Primordial Annihilator, and to the Imperium of Man as the Arch-Enemy, is a metaphysical psychic force embodied by the malevolent entities comprised of emotional energy that exist in the immaterium.
I'm sure that means something to somebody. It's corrupting evil, bad stuff, wielded by evil, bad people. It's a tempting force, the proverbial dark side to perhaps put it a little inelegantly. But that's where I'll stop with the story. I've covered some of the story, but not most of it. Wouldn't want to spoil too much now, would I? That's not my purpose here. Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine received mixed to positive reviews, around 70 to 80 out of 100, being definitively weighted towards the lower 70s. You can expect to beat the game within 7.5 to 9.5 hours depending upon your playstyle and exploration. That median coming from my go-to source at How Long to Beat. This doesn't include any time in multiplayer, of course. Whilst researching this game, I found a lot of positive comments about the multiplayer. It seemed to be rather popular, and in 2021 with the release of the Anniversary Edition, you could definitely find a game or two again. But by 2024, the servers have died down. I personally could not find a single game. In the end, Space Marine is a serviceable entry to the Warhammer franchise. The game definitely could have been better, with a more interesting, outspoken main character, especially out of cutscenes, a different, more vibrantly coloured world, and an enhanced melee combat system could have made this game great. Captain Titus is a strong, stoic character with hints of a rare commodity in the Warhammer universe, compassion. Sadly, I believe the inherent nature of the Space Marines, their in-universe attitude, their aforementioned collective calm stoicness, has very much tied the developers' hands behind their backs when trying to create a memorable, entertaining hero. There are at least a few entertaining characters outside of the main protagonist, but you aren't with them most of the time. Unfortunately, the game can become a bit of a slog at times. Many reviews critiqued the second half of the game falling a bit short and not changing it up enough, and I agree with that a little bit. There is an interesting story. Hints of chaos, suggestions all is not normal, a malevolent presence looming over the world and puppeting the Ork forces. It's all intriguing enough to make you want to discover more, to push forwards. I also do wonder if a bit too much of the budget went towards hiring Mark Strong to voice Captain Titus. I can only imagine he cost a pretty penny. At this point in his career, he was just in Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr. and Kick-Ass, two very well-received movies. Don't look at these two. We ignore those two. Nothing against him, of course. He did a decent enough job with what he had, and I don't blame him for being paid appropriately for his efforts. So, the game can be fun. It can make you laugh at its ridiculous brutality. The Cockney-accented Orks are entertaining in their simplicity. The world of Warhammer is intriguing and rich in lore. It has a very cool main menu, and despite my complaining, I did really enjoy my time playing it. If you need more of a reason to try out Space Marine, Sega, who now owns the franchise, is set to release a sequel 13 years later. At the time of this recording, the sequel comes out very soon, with Titus returning, though not voiced by Mark Strong this time. So perhaps if you have the spare time and wait for a sale, seriously, wait for a sale. It is definitely not worth full price when multiplayer is completely empty and the game is 13 years old. Get it cheap and give it a try, especially if you plan on trying out the sequel eventually too. Like me, you might just have a bit of fun. So, will you play it? Let me know in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks very much for watching and thank you very much for your support. Goodbye for now.